Hey everybody, today we're going to be doing steps 10 and 11 in the Tamiya TT-02 Type SR kit. And that's to mount the motor onto the chassis. And there's some considerations here that we need to talk about first. Obviously, first we need to talk about what motor you're going to use. I am using this particular chassis to run in the TCS novice class whenever it's held again here in my hometown. And the SR is I guess the best variant of the TT-02 that you're allowed in the group. So I'm going to take advantage of that and use it for that purpose. And in order to do so, I have to run the torque tune motor. I can't go brushless. But I suspect anybody who is buying the Type SR is probably going to be running a 17.5 going brushless. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't think a lot of people are going to be using this motor. But with that said, there's some other considerations as to what pinion gear you're going to use, which motor mount you're going to use. So we'll talk about a lot of that. In my own case, I am going to use a 28 tooth pinion gear, and that's because that's all I have. I have a 27 here off of the TT-02 RR, and I have a 28 left over from the pinion gear set that I upgraded on the TT-02 RR as well. And I'm going to use, just as I said, with the whole kit, I'm going to build it as is, what's in the box. But if you are going brushless, I would recommend that you purchase the aluminum one that did come with the RR kit. And before you choose your pinion gear, I would consult the manual just to see where you're going to be in terms of drive ratio. The kit comes with a 72 spur gear. So as you can see here, my pinion gear, the 28, is off the chart. But I did figure out with the internal gear ratio of 2.6 with the 28 pinion gear, it actually comes out to 6.5 to 1. So that's my FDR, final drive ratio. I know that. You can calculate yours with the information, with the chart here. If I had to choose, if I were building this stock and just kind of as a fun car to drive around in, I would maybe stick with the 21 tooth pinion. You know, there's no reason to stress the car too much and the motor too much for no good reason. But it's all up to you. I'm sure a lot of people are going brushless, 17.5, 13.5. Whatever you're using the car for, go for it. All right, let me bring together all the parts and we'll get started. Before we get into it, let me show you the difference between the Type SR and a stock TT-02 manual. And you can see that it's going to be very similar. This is stock step 10, this is step 11, and it's essentially the same. The stock TT-02 came with the motor plate, and I don't know why it didn't on this kit, but it doesn't have it. And that's about it. It has the same motor mount, and it looks pretty much the same. Yep. Yeah, the steps are exactly the same for both the SR and the TT-02. And let's always first look to the side of the manual and see what we're going to need. So I'm going to need these screws, which were already open in the last bag. There's a grub screw, which was also in the same bag. So this particular motor mount, this plastic one, that is reversible. See if you can read the numbers here. Let me zoom in. So on this side, with the mounts would go from 16 tooth to 20. And then on the other side, you would use this side for 21 to 25. In my case, I would use this side and go 26, 27, 28, and then the other screw would go right there. So it would look something like that. It would be something like that. But let me show you what tools we're going to need. You're going to need a 1.5 millimeter hex wrench, a 2 millimeter hex wrench. I also have the electric. And that's it. Let's get started. So it calls for the motor mount. Like I said, we're going to be using this side. And we're going to turn the motor so that the screw holes are this way. And I know it's going to be right there. Like I said, 26, 27, 28. So I'm going to put a screw right here. And one right there. Simple enough. All right. And then now it calls for installing the pinion onto the motor. And there's a diagram here that shows you how to accomplish that. But let me show you on the motor here. I think you can see that there's a flat spot here. And that's where you want the grub screw to land on. So I'm going to put that on there and place my grub screw. I'm not going to worry about positioning just yet, like how far this comes off here just yet. I just want to place this on there and tighten it so that that doesn't fall off. You don't need to tighten it very hard right now. And that's it. So that's step 11. It does tell you to bend in the wires here a little bit so it doesn't get caught up in the chassis. All right, let's go to the next step. Next step is very straightforward. We're just going to place this in the chassis. And the reason why I wasn't too concerned about an exact distance coming off the motor is because I'd rather do it here and kind of wiggle it so that I know I'm getting a good alignment with the spur gear. So now I will tighten it. All right, so that's what it looks like. Looks like I have good gear mesh. Actually, you don't have to worry about gear mesh. The way this motor mount is made, with all the pre-drilled holes, you know you're going to get a good gear mesh, and that's the good thing about these Tamiya motor mount plates. All right, and then it calls for putting on the spur gear cover, which is in the D tree, and it's this piece right here. So I'm going to take that off. Just set that in. Actually, there's 2 screws underneath that we need to put in first, and it's the same MA1 screw. This actually fastens the motor onto the chassis. Very important. Alright, that's that. And there's 4 screws that go onto the spur gear cover. One here. One on this end. One right there. And one right here. All right, and I'm just going to go back and hand tighten these. A few turns. Oops, no, it's this one. And that's it. Actually, if you pay attention closely, this step actually also calls for the battery mount. Let me find those. There they are. And the B parts tree is actually kind of interesting. All the parts are kind of rubbery. It's a rubbery plastic, while everything else is a very stiff plastic. I don't know why the battery posts need to be a soft plastic, but they are. So it goes in that way, and it goes in this way, and all we're doing is using the same screws as everything else so far, and putting that in. And that's it. So we have the motor in there and we have the battery post. I hope I answered some of the questions you may have had in terms of choosing the motor. If you have any comments on that, please leave it below. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And so we're done with step 10 and 11. And the next video, we're going to be working on the front arms and the rear arms. And it's going to be a longer video because we're going to talk about some of the adjustments that are available only to the Type SR kit. For example, this rear suspension mount, and I think the arms have some adjustments as well, and we're going to talk about these bushings, or pills as you can call it. I'm going to look to the back of the manual and look at the setups and some of the considerations you may have for this kit. So thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe below. I'll see you guys in the next one.